talking about the things that the Bible commands us to do. For example, we touched on the dietary law. Well, no, that was back then in those days, you know. Back then, they didn't have refrigeration. They didn't really know and understand how to preserve food. It didn't have nothing to do with that. He gave particular characteristics to animals, and he created particular animals for particular purposes. So he said, this one was made for human consumption, this one was not. You can eat this one, you can't eat this one. It had nothing to do with anything people say, but because of what they believe to be logic and reason. We're going to touch on that as well. Well, see, back on that time, I can understand them not eating that pork. But see, today, pork is the other white meat, you see? See how the adversary works? Let's move on. Now, there's a book that he published. The book is called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. It was published in 1949. It's a non-fiction book and seminal work of comparative mythology. Now, what that means, and let me just touch on what he means by mythology. When he says mythology, he means any spiritual belief, whether it's the truth or falsehood. He lumps it all together in what he labels as mythology. In other words, a myth, which is by nature, if you look up the term, something that's not true anyway. So he's approaching this whole idea about religion as if it's just a bunch of hogwash, so to speak. That's his mentality. Let's understand that first and foremost. But here's his thought. We talk about comparative mythology. So what he does, he looks and examines this one in comparison with that one, in comparison with this one, and he sees similarities. The reason why he sees similarities is because what the adversary does, there's a foundational truth where everything springs from. And what the adversary has done, he has buffeted the word. He has picked and chosen different parts and he put them in different places. Different religious beliefs, different philosophies, different sciences, so forth and so on. So that you may have one who gravitates to this and another who gravitates to that. In other words, it's called divide and conquer by Sun Tzu. You see, well, this is what he does. But see, in the minds of the scholars today or your philosophers today, in their comparative mythology, they think they're making some grand statement. So let's look at it. Let's follow it. In this publication, Campbell discusses his theory of the journey of the archetypal hero found in world mythologies. Campbell explores the theory that important myths from around the world, which have survived for thousands of years, all share a fundamental structure, which Campbell called the monomyth. In a well-known quote from the introduction to The Hero with 1,000 Faces, Campbell summarized the monomyth. Now check this out. This is the monomyth. And what the term mono is, it's a compound word, monomyth. Mono means one, and of course myth means something that's false. One falsehood. Think about it. See how the adversary is working in the world. Again, these are the tools that he uses, the devices he uses to give reasonable doubt. This is the statement. A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. Okay, now think about that. Okay. The one question that everybody who has ever read that book or any book similar to that, who believes that all of these religions and spirituality, I'm not going to say all of them are, because there's one that I know is the truth. And that's what Yah has given through Yahweh Elohim. That is the truth. But everything else outside of that, they are myths, they are falsehoods, they are lies, they are deceit. He says, where the hero with 1,000 faces draws perhaps more from psychology, the Mask of God books draw more from anthropology and history. Now, we're going to touch on another book. Campbell often described mythology as having a fourfold function for human society. These appear at the end of his work. It's called The Mask of God, Creative Mythology, as well as various lectures. So this is how he breaks it down. And again, the purpose that we're going through this is to show, when you look at scholarship or philosophy and how they approach the word, the intent and purpose is to deceive and cause people to believe something that is not true as if it is true. So one point that he makes is what's called the metaphysical function, which is awakening a sense of awe before the mystery of being. The next one, the cosmological function, explaining the shape of the universe. The sociological function, validate and support the existing social order. The psychological function, guide the individual through the stages of life. Now think about this. All he has simply done, in the manner in which he's done it, is through philosophy and through logic and reasoning. He has basically broken down the teachings of the Word. Now, because he presents it in this way, and to those who are scholars and those who are more so drawn toward intellectuals, what they actually do is this. They lean more towards that because it's something that they can relate to in their physical mind, that carnal mind, which we're going to touch on that as well. But what they're not realizing is because they adhere to this, it's actually pulling them away from believing, supporting, building up the Creator of the heavens and the earth. You see? That is the sole purpose of information like this. There's some truth there, because the Word does awaken a sense of awe. You see? The Word does explain the shape and formation of the universe. The Word does validate and support the existing social order. The Word does guide an individual through the stages of life. But through this, it presents the Word as if it's false, but on the other side, and this is the part that people don't look at, because he's seeing it this way, although he may not be a believer, although he may consider the belief in Yah, the Most High, as being a myth, as being something that's falsehood, what he continues to do is establish the truth. Even with Hero of 1,000 Faces. See, what people fail to realize is this. There is that original source. So if you have all these different people who have something similar to a messianic figure, that's the hero he's referring to. What that's actually showing is that in the world, there was once a doctrine, a teaching, a promise even, that there would be that heroic figure. Remember? Now let's take your mind back. At one point in time, humanity spoke one language, one tongue. They were of one speech. And during that time, yes, it was taught about Mashiach and what Mashiach was going to do. But remember, the languages were confused. So now you got several different languages in the world. So in this culture, they're teaching the same thing, but now there's some corruption added to it. In this culture, they're teaching the same thing, but there's some corruption added to it. So the hero with 1,000 faces, even though in his mind he calls the monomyth, everybody has this one lie, that's not so. What you're actually seeing is the establishment of the truth, but because of the works of the adversary and the confusion of the languages, it appears as if it's a lie or as if it's falsehood. But what it actually does is establish that the word of Yahweh is what it is. But people don't look at it that way. Because see, when we get into the carnal mind, you better understand, most people in the world don't even want to have a connection with the Creator of the heaven and the earth, truth be told. And part of it is due to scholarship. You're going to take a look at exactly what the Creator thinks about man's logic and man's reasoning and what we refer to as intellectualism and scholarship today. We're going to take a look at that.